Welcome, Business Geeks, to the Business Geeks podcast. We're so happy to have you here today on a Thursday here in the States, a Friday morning over there in down under, I was about to say South Australia, in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia. Everyone, I am joined by my two wonderful co-hosts, Samantha Riley from SamanthaRiley.global and Jennifer Crawford from Sparent.co. And I, of course, am Super Joe Pardo. Jennifer, how are you feeling today?
You know, we might as well be honest to the audience. We are all feeling some chaos and frantic energy. All the entrepreneurs out there, you can relate. We're always juggling a lot of things, and sometimes everything sort of comes to a head at a period of time where you expect to be slow, but then you're slammed with all kinds of things. So for some reason, it's all hit the three of us very similarly in terms of busyness and chaos and a lot going on. So it's good. I don't know about you guys, but I like being like a little stressed. Like I don't like unhealthy stress, but there's a degree of chaos where I thrive, and if I can stay there, like that's kind of where I am now. Anymore, and I might cry, but I'm good right now.
I like it. I agree with the stress bit. I think I've crept over a little bit into the almost crying today. But
Yes,
you know, it's Friday here. It might hit you tomorrow, Jen.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. And Samantha, how are you doing this morning?
I think Jen really summed it up well. All three of us are just like, I feel like we like slid into today's episode, like into home base, just like on our butts. But you know what? We are here and I'm excited and we're just going to hang out and have some fun. But
yes,
Joe,
except your day's just getting started. So
I know, right? Well, you say just getting started, but I've been recording now for 4 hours. It's been a busy morning.
Doing it.
How are you, Joe?
Oh, I am tired. I sent Jen a picture as I drove by the Washington Monument last night at like 11:30, I think it was, because I had to go pick up a minivan. Because like the car shortage thing is real, and getting the specific car that you actually want in the specific color that you actually want is tough. And you know, when we were trying to find what we were looking for as an upgraded version of the minivan we already had from like 4 years ago, three and a half, 4 years ago, it was like, oh, you could get this and this, but not this, or you can get everything you want, but it's in red, and it's not like bright like cherry red. It's like dark burgundy red, and I'm like, ugh, Dodge, why? But yeah, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Or Melissa was going and finding, you know, searching outside of our area because you can only do like 250-mile searches. So she's like, I was like, oh, why don't you put like New York in? There's got to be one around Manhattan, right? No, you put it. Then we put DC in, and that's when we found out that there was one in North Carolina. So 6 hours each way for me, and I could have had it delivered. But it would have cost like $1,000. And when I asked them, I said, well, when will I get it? They're like, well, we had to talk to the company, and then, you know, they got to have other cars to go on the flatbed. And I get it. I'm, you know, efficiency guy. I get it. And I agree. But then I started thinking, like, they're going to sell this car out from under us. And you know what? I was talking, and I didn't really think about that until I was driving down there thinking about it. And I was like, I'm really glad I'm on my way down there. And then when I get there, I'm talking to the finance guy, and I was like, you know, I was worried that you guys might like sell this out from under me. And you know what he said? He said, oh, that doesn't happen here. But there was this one truck that was really nice that somebody special ordered. And you know what? They couldn't find the other key. So they sold it anyway. And then the guy comes walking in looking for his truck that he custom ordered, you know, that was all nice and all specced out just the way he wanted it. And guess what? All they had was a key.
Oh,
because somebody was like, oh, I
no.
can't find the other key. It's okay. We'll just get it to you when we get it. It's no big deal. And sent the guy on his way. So then he had to wait. I said, well, was he local? And they said, yeah, he was. And I was like, well, I would have been really ticked off if I drove 6 hours to find out that there was not an actual vehicle here when the night before I was FaceTiming with the sales lady. Very nice sales lady, Stacy. Go to, if you go to Westgate in Raleigh, North Carolina, deal with Stacy. She's awesome.
Do you know what I
But
was thinking as you were telling this story, Joe? I just have
what?
to say, because Jen possibly is having the same thought.
I know. I already
Lucky
know
it
what you're
didn't
thinking.
happen to you, because otherwise, man, that customer service hotline would have just been like,
Hey, you got to get something done, right? You got to get something done. You got to call the right people to make it happen, right? Just like if you got a question, you need to drop it down below or on the side or wherever the chat window bubble thing is, and we will do our best to answer it here today. That's one of the reasons we're here today as the Business Geek. So yeah, it would have been terrible, but it wasn't. And I'll tell you, the first 6 hours driving down was not very comfortable. The second 6 hours driving back, much more comfortable, because we went from like cloth seats, which we wanted for kids, to leather seats that were much more accommodating on the lower back and the back in general
Nice.
for driving 6 hours. So,
Well,
well,
congratulations.
it sounds like a win.
Yeah.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, I got home at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm still kind of exhausted, but we're here. And speaking of being here, what also is here is the ticker is ticking away, tick 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 away, closing
Look
in
at it.
on my channel for 5,000 subscribers, which is I'm like it's crazy.
Let's see those seven.
insane.
I want to see that tick over right in this show. I want to see it tick over.
It would be awesome. You just go search up Super Joe Pardo on YouTube. And you can go and subscribe. But yeah, it would be pretty awesome. It's kind of overwhelming, because it's literally coming so quick, like 50 a day at this
Oh
point.
no, it's going in the wrong direction.
It went backwards.
Oh, somebody unsubscribed. It's okay. It's okay. YouTube.
Understood.
Well, look, YouTube, what they do sometimes, like they don't always get it right. Like I've had it where it'll actually jump down like 10, 13 subs all at once, like in the middle of the day. So I don't think, because then you go back to like the chart and you see like the day to day, and I'll because I track it day to day, I know what that day, like what those days look like. And sometimes they readjust because it didn't, it wasn't. Oh, there it goes. It went back up.
It's back.
There we go.
This is very exciting.
Sometimes it'll go down 1 or 2, but then you'll see you go by an hour go by or whatever. And it's funny. It's like when you think about like and I think this is a really good lesson, right? Is when you're not just for YouTube, but with analytics in general, right? And the numbers, like, sometimes you have to break it down even further than like looking at it as a day. So like one of the things I was like, okay, well, if I got like 50, or even I think at one point I was calculating for like 80 in a day, that's like 3 an hour. That's not that crazy, right? Oh, it was somebody. Thank you. It's all good. It's all good, man. It's a good joke to play. I just, I earned that, right? Probably somebody in the room. Yep. At the end of the day, then that number doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, right? What means more is the connections with the people. What means more is people coming back and just watching the videos. In fact, somebody that has been watching my videos for a while now, apparently, they didn't even realize that they weren't subscribed. So they went and subscribed. And it's like, the YouTube algorithm, it doesn't matter. Like, they know what you like, they know what you're watching, and they're just going to serve it up anyway. And they know what you're going to click on. Like, they have a pretty good idea. So, it's awesome to see that number go up. But the returning viewers, I was just checking earlier today, is actually at like 28,000, almost 28,500 returning viewers in a month, which is like that number.
That's
is like, okay,
numbers.
we filled a stadium. I mean, not one of your stadiums down there with the Australian Football League, because those hold what, like 100.
Well, MCG I think is 50,000, or is it 100,000? Maybe 100. I think MCG is 100,000. I think.
Yeah, those stadiums are like 2.5 football fields big. Like, they're huge.
Well, you could fill a small stadium, Super Joe Pardo. I don't know when you're going to be throwing that out there, but.
Well, I told you we're going on tour. It's going to this is happening. Like, it just we gotta wait for the virus or the illness. Don't demonetize the illness and all that. to blow by, and travel restrictions to lift, and to not be a question mark going into the future. And we will be going on tour.
Well, I can't come see you
happening.
guys. You have shut the border to Australians for the first time.
We're so rude.
Wow,
I know,
that
right?
is
Rude.
I was right. There we go.
100,000. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, our biggest football stadiums hold 100,000. Like
that
you
is our
get,
biggest one.
American football, but yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you, Lorraine, for filling us in. So yeah, so we'll see if it, we'll be tracking it throughout the time. But look, progress is progress, and that literally, like, it's all about following the analytics and the numbers, right? That's what that's literally what the process that I went through was. Doing a little bit testing, making changes, testing, making changes, testing, and just see, watch the results.
Well, I will be very excited to see that 5,000. It has to go in the next hour to 5,000 so that we can celebrate with you.
I mean,
I could artificially do that. I have like 10 accounts at this point,
but that doesn't
I'm not going
count.
to artificially do it. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. You don't want to artificially pump your numbers. The other thing that happened was I hit 1.5 million views on the channel, and if you discount like the first, I don't know, 10,000 or a couple tens of thousands of views, I pretty much hit that in less than a year, because I really started taking it serious in March of last year. So from March to March, I mean, at the rate we're going, it very well could be at 2 million before the 1 year mark.
That's pretty
awesome. Insane.
Well done,
insane
Super Joe.
Numbers. Well, thank you. So anyway, the other topics that we had today, other than, if you have any questions, please feel free. I forgot to pull this back up. Drop them in the chat. What was it? You want to go with the 7 types of rest that every person needs. Sam, you dropped this in here.
No, it was in there from, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was me. And I don't know, hopefully everyone can appreciate that this does very much connect to business. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, burning the candle at both ends, and they think that if they get I thought this, if you get a good night's sleep, you get your 8 hours of shut-eye in, you're good to go. And this article from TED, ideas.ted, this article is based on a TED Talk by this doctor, and she is educating people on the various types of rest. And there are actually seven different kinds of rest. And when I read through this article, it really made so much sense to me. It was both enlightening, but also instantly like, yes, this is absolutely true. Creative rest, sensory rest, mental rest, physical rest, social rest. We sort of need all of these different types of rest in order to, be fully functioning human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved how she broke it down, because now I can be more cognizant of like why I might be run down or why I might not be feeling 100%, even if I get enough sleep. There are times where like, oh yeah, I've been staring at a screen for, either a phone screen or a monitor for 12 hours. Like, I may have gotten enough sleep, but that is depleting a different type of energy. So anyway, I just thought it was applicable to everybody, but business owners for sure.
I love this so much, and it was really interesting for me to see that creative rest, because just last year, one of the coaches that I work with, and I work with her for health and wellness, one of the sessions that we did was actually drawing mandalas. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but it's a picture that you can use. I used pencils, and it's in like in a circle, and you just kind of draw in it without really thinking. We did an hour session, and I kid you not, it was all about every time you get into your logical head, just like let go of the thoughts and like just draw, and whatever comes out is right. I felt so amazing after it. I remember I went and wrote a whole heap of like articles that afternoon because my brain had totally switched off for an hour. It was incredible. I'd never done it before and I would never have thought of doing that. So I'm all for the creative rest. I was
So good.
super surprised.
Yeah, super, super good.
It reminds me. So back in the day, working in the part of truck parts days, right? I would do these like massive projects and like overhaul systems and things of that nature, and then like I would catch myself kind of like I almost felt lazy, like taking that rest of like trying to like change more, keep evolving and stuff like that for it might be a couple of weeks, it might be a month, it might be 2 months, depending on the amount of shock that I introduced to the entirety of the company. It might be 3 months or more before I would like, okay, what's the next iteration? And part of that is letting the data work itself out, right? Like looking at early data is not, or data is not necessarily indicative of like what's actually happening. And like we see with the illness, right? Like things happen and then things happen, like show the roller coaster happens, but it's there's like weeks in front that you have to be able to predict and look at, because it's what you're looking at is data that's from the past. So it doesn't always match up with like, oh, we had today's, not like we made a change, we already have today's numbers, and it's a success, mission accomplished, or it's not. And especially when you're talking about things that have ebbs and flows and lag times when moving inventories and things like that. Like it's one of those things. But I felt that where like I felt like, man, I feel like I'm getting my work done, but I'm not getting the next big project. Like what's the next thing? And that, I guess that I was taking that rest that was so needed before taking on the next emotional roller coaster of being told, this won't work or whatever. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
Jen.
I think it's a really awesome article, Jen, and I think we should definitely share the link because this is more important than I think a lot of us realize.
Yeah, so many of us are burnt out, overworked. I mean, this is also something that's showing up in the general workforce with the Great Resignation. Like people are tired and exhausted in so many different ways. So, you have to take care of yourself. That's just the bottom line. And, hustle culture, I think is, well on its way out, but that has for so long encouraged like work and productivity above self-care, above mental health, above family, above everything. And, we were sold a bill of goods that wasn't great. So, I love articles like this that just are educating people and bringing to the forefront the need for putting other things ahead of work and, sacrificing our overall well-being for work.
And I think just the geeks all need to look at this today, the way that we've all come into this episode.
Today, I need to reread this article.
Yes, if for no one else, for the three of us.
Yeah.
So
you've got to laugh.
that actually pitches me right into, so one of the things I got to do while I was driving for 12 hours yesterday was I got to more or less listen to the documentary that Sam had recommended a few weeks back here on the show, Own the Room. Was it this? Was it before? It was this year, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to mostly, I mean, it was playing, so I was mostly listening to it. And it was very it was interesting. Now I get why it was part of National Geographic's lineup, because it really kind of almost is about the culture of the people and where they're coming from in the world, and in their relationship with work and the relationship with entrepreneurship and the relationship with Locutus being in the chat. Welcome, evening.
Hello.
And all that. So I mean, to me, I don't want to spoil it, but I won't spoil it. I won't spoil
Don't
it. But
spoil it.
But it was pretty obvious to me, at least, out of the gate, like what was going to transpire. So But
Okay.
yeah.
So
but,
you
but it was
didn't
still
like
good.
it
Great
because
journey.
of that?
No, look, you're
Definitely
saying to
do
spoil
not
it.
spoil it.
No,
Just
I'm not gonna
focus,
spoil
Joe.
it. I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm
No.
not gonna spoil it. But
Well,
no, no. I thought it was a wonderful story. I think all of them, for the most part, had really good, interesting stories. It was a little hard because some of them spoke Spanish, and like obviously I'm driving, so I can't really like I knew some of the words, but when they would speak English, they kind of filled in some of the gaps of the conversation. But I don't know. I guess I was expecting something that was more focused in the business side of it, even though it's National Geographic, and they were focused more on the culture of the people from which they came, and the families, and the stories, and and all that. So it just wasn't.
Oh, I
It's
loved it. Absolutely loved it.
no spoilers are boring. No. But it'll make it boring to watch. It'll make it more boring, less interesting to watch, because there's no stakes at that point, right? And that was the whole thing. But it did make me wonder: were they when they filmed it, like, did they? I wonder if they followed some of these other students, and then they just didn't cut, like they cut them out, or they
I
just
had exactly the same
hand-selected?
thought. They must have followed like a raft of people so that they could cut it down to those people, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to put it together the way that they did.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's what I figured that they probably but then why because not all of them, not all, I mean that's not really spoiling, not all of them make it to the end, right? As part of the
But that's real
competition.
life.
Right, and that's real life too. So that makes me wonder, like, was that planned and then they cut people's stories out? I mean, having 51, because it's 51 students that make it to the finals, which I didn't even know Macau was a thing. Like I've heard the word before, but I never knew that it was like the Vegas of China. Um, so that was kind of cool. I mean, it really literally looks like looks like Vegas. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's funny because Vegas has all the knockoffs of other worldly cool things, world wonders or whatever, and then China's the knockoff of that. So but no, it was cool. It's definitely worth watching. It's only an hour and a half or so, so it's not like super drawn out or anything. And it's a very interesting look
I think
into
what
the
I
world of
liked about it is
entrepreneurship.
it's not just the numbers. Like, I know that you're very invested in Shark Tank. It's lots of numbers, it's lots of deals. I really loved it because this is the people behind it. It was their stories, it was their culture. And there is a whole, like, as business owners, we've got these crazy lives that happen behind us. And, for me, seeing, who was it? The person from Nepal who had
Yeah.
the party business, and just
Yes.
looking and going, wow, that would not fly like that in Australia, because we're a first world country. So and just seeing
I honestly
the
didn't
change
understand
that they're
that business
making.
at all. Like again, I was mostly driving, so I wasn't like watching intently at every scene. I
Yeah.
glanced over what certain things were happening, but like
But see, the reason that you probably don't
I didn't.
understand it is because it's specific for that culture. So I know a lot of Nepalese people, and there
Mm,
are a lot of Nepalese in Australia that are separated from their family. So to see that part of the story, it gave me so much more connection to what they're actually going through. So
mm.
yeah, I thought it was beautiful.
Oh, no, that is awesome, and I thought that part was really neat. Like again, I when I travel, it's more about the people than it is about the sightseeing and the cool vistas or whatever. But I know I don't know. It just didn't. I guess because I was just hoping for something different, and then a couple of the businesses I didn't quite understand. Again, wasn't able to read all the subtitles or anything like that,
Mm.
so there was some disconnect there on my part, especially uh, like the Kenyan Henry with his business. Like, was that like he said it was like an Airbnb
It
or
was like
something
an
to that effect?
Airbnb for university students.
Right, and that caught that part caught my attention, but I didn't understand, like, it's like just as long as you're going to school, like you can
Yeah, so
rent,
how
like.
it started because he went to university and went to the city and couldn't find anywhere to live, and he had nowhere to live for the first week of uni. So he realized that there was, I think it was like 2/3 of people in that country that go to uni have nowhere to live. So that's a huge problem. So yeah, I really, really loved it.
No, I seriously.
I'll love it for both of us.
You can. I didn't hate it. I'm not hating it. I just, I was watching. I didn't do my part as far as being able to like really dial in and watch it. So.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't watch it, because otherwise you may not be here with us right now.
Yes. And Locutus says I love Las Vegas. I go most years. China has created huge towns based on European cities. And Jorge joins us saying, hello, super folks, and congrats on the new vehicle. Thank you very much. Studying now and watching. Thanks for all you do.
Aww.
You are
Hi,
so
Jorge.
welcome, Jorge.
Wow, so glad you're here.
Yeah, Locutus says, where I live in England, we have many Nepalese. I'm sure many of them are descendants of the
Gurkhas.
I'm the wrong person to be reading this. Fill in the word. Fill in the blank. Gurkhas.
Gurkhas. They are great people.
Gurkhas.
Huge respect to them and the Gurkhas.
Awesome. So so that was something I wanted to fill in with, and I mean we do have to cut today's episode a little short, and I want to apologize. I was supposed to do a live stream today with Eddie Garrison. We're gonna have to reschedule. He had an emergency. Literally I don't know, 20 minutes before we were supposed to go on air. So, which is absolutely fine. I don't know what happened, so hopefully he's fine. But we will reschedule that on my channel at least. So there was a quick question, and we'll do the abbreviated version because I want to get both of your input on this, especially. Since we all use Facebook, but we are all of at least some kind of certain age, generation or so. This comment came through on, I think it was it was on one of my reaction videos. At the end of the reaction videos, I always go and check out their website. I check out the social media, the Facebook, the Instagram, whatever they link to from their site. Usually, I don't go and search out their TikTok if they don't link it from their site specifically, because you should have it linked on your site if you want people to be able to easily find it. So this says Facebook is for old people. Guilty. Instagram is fading. You cannot judge a person's engagement on Facebook. Facebook is so saturated with perceived importance, and it's absolutely a laughable joke to require Facebook to get exposure. Facebook had its day. They try and meta whatever, but kids are not going there. Facebook will fade with the boomers and Gen X of boomers. I'm Gen X, and my business is successful, but I deleted Facebook and hardly, if ever, use social media anymore. It's ironic that YouTube is a social media platform, just of a different, the different, was it a cow of a different color or a horse of a different color? It's a toxic, worthless space, and it's easy to be someone you are not on social media. And I think the masses are starting to realize that they have wasted their time believing investing in Facebook ads, and all the garbage they push is absolutely the worst ROI and waste of time ever. Any thoughts?
I mean, I'm probably not going to comment on the part you want me to comment on, but
no, I don't. What are you?
Well, the first sentence
there's a lot there.
There's a lot to unpack, but the first sentence I have a problem with. Facebook is for old people. Wake up. Old people have money. Old people are not irrelevant. Old people have a say, have purchase power, have value to contribute to society. I am so sick of people saying, "Oh, when you reach a certain age, you don't count. We don't care about what you buy. We don't care about how you live. We don't care about your demographic." It is so infuriating. I understand wanting to reach the next generation. That obviously for marketing purposes is important, but how dare you discount older people and act like they're disposable and irrelevant? We've seen it with the illness. people not caring because it only affects people in their 60s and over, as if it's okay that, all these people die just because they're, past the prime, which I argue with as well. So anyway, I don't want to rant too much, but I stopped at that sentence and just saw red, and I don't really care about the rest.
You know what, Jen? I totally agree. I
What?
totally agree. I know we do agree.
I mean, we agree a lot about.
We agree a lot, but yeah, no, same thing. I'm like, what? Just because it's for old people means it doesn't matter?
Exactly.
I mean, I do agree. The younger generation aren't interacting on it like they used to. I know that for a fact. But so there's plenty of social media platforms, and like you said, Joe, our lovely commenter is commenting on a social media platform.
Yeah, my 80-year-old relatives, my mother, you know what they do because they're retired? They're online and they're shopping all the time. They're buying crap every single day because they've got money and they've got time. So, they're learning about products on Facebook and, other places as well. So whatever, don't go on Facebook, delete it. But I don't think it's a good idea at this point.
I agree.
I think it's I think it's a bitch recited now. The meta thing, like the whole metaverse thing, I'm not sold on it. I don't. To me, it's like the equivalent of a domain name, and like, oh, you need to buy your space, and it's like Facebook is like trying to basically become the next Comcast, right? Where it's like they're owning the gateway to the internet. Now, while they're not going to own the bandwidth, they'll own the servers, and that kind of muddies the water for a lot of people. But the internet is the internet for a reason, and it's open, and it's enabled people from all over the planet to. I mean, how many? What was it like? There used to be a statistic like for every like million people that get access to the internet, it creates like so many millionaires. Just as an effect, like just because people have access to information, because people have access to opportunities that weren't there before. And I forget, it's been a while since I've heard that statement, so I don't know if it's still as relevant. But I mean, I don't know that everybody's on the planet is on there anyway. I mean, Facebook. I mean, last I heard they had like what 2 billion users, something like that. There's like 7.5 billion, almost 8 billion people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it's still one of the platforms where people show up as themselves as opposed to like an anonymous username.
Supposed
to.
I
feel what? What did you say?
Supposed to. They're
supposed to. But I mean, I still think for the most part, people are showing up as themselves as opposed to other platforms, TikTok, Instagram. You don't have to have like your real name. People, show up as any sort of iterations of not themselves. So, so I still think that works in their favor in a lot of ways in the markeking, arena.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Joe. No, you're right.
You're up.
Well, I was going to say, it's the second third most used website in the world, I think, up there with Google and YouTube. So sure, you've got some people leaving, but it still leaves a real lot of people there.
It does, right? And I think there's probably some old adage or old saying that says like, "Ye who starts young ends old." Like those young people are going to become old at some point, and they're going to get mortgages, maybe kids, well, maybe mortgages if they're lucky at this point.
Exactly.
Kids if they're lucky and want it, all these things, right? There's all these things that like adulting eventually takes over. And look, the amount of money that's about to transfer in the next 20 years from like the boomer to the Gen X and the Gen X to the millennial is huge. And I don't think that it's, I don't look, marketing isn't all about direct sales, right? Like I see an ad, I click on an ad, I buy the thing, right? I look at Facebook ads like all day long because intentionally reading them and studying them and just see and reading the comments of what people have to say about them. It's just something I do. So I don't think Facebook's gonna like fade away. I think they've done they've done a bad job of a lot of things. They're not perfect, and I don't love them. But I think that they've done enough to like be able to get by to that next level of like the next generation eventually saying, yeah, we're gonna have a Facebook too. It's kind of like LinkedIn, right? Like nobody's predicting LinkedIn's gonna be gone tomorrow because how many young people have a LinkedIn profile, or I don't know the statistic on that. But I'm sure they're not there like
Well,
TikTok.
not many, I wouldn't have thought.
Right? Like it's not going to be to that level that TikTok brings to the table for sure, or maybe even Instagram. If one of them was to go, I think Instagram's the one that's going to end up fading
agree.
before Facebook does.
I agree too. Yeah, I'm spending less and less time there for sure. And the exciting thing about TikTok, and I know you guys know I love TikTok now, is that it is age agnostic. I mean, it's thought of as a younger platform, but you know what TikTok loves? People of all ages. Like, you're 80 years old, you will get a following on that app. There are plenty of people that you would consider elderly that have huge followings on TikTok. It is a place where you can find your people, and people celebrate kind of quirky weirdness and people being their authentic selves. So it's a little bit, it's kind of breaking the mold in terms of like trying to define what generation is drawn to it. It's kind of cross-generational at this point.
I agree. It's the first social media platform where I've seen people of any age getting a following. I can't believe how many people that are in their even 80s have got huge followings on TikTok. It's incredible.
We were just talking about this in my mastermind yesterday about one of the videos that Maxwell Ivy, but I think both of you are familiar with that. Max, he's one of his songs was used by somebody, I don't know, so one of his friends or something like that used one of his songs in a TikTok video, and it got 1,000 views, and he was like blown away because he's like, well, I put that song on YouTube and it took a year and it got 200 views. And it's like, well, yeah, but like to me that would kind of almost be like equivalent, to 200 views, but in a shorter period of time, and it's still 2,000 eyeballs that are hitting even just a few seconds of that video, right? So, the expansiveness of what TikTok is capable of, because it's trained people to go so much quicker. And I think to go to the point of Instagram not necessarily making it the long haul, I think there's probably a lesson there of like, once you start copying everybody else, it doesn't it doesn't bode well for what you have to bring, especially when you're like the fashion, like you're not the non-essential one. Like, I would consider Facebook somewhat essential. Yeah, not everyone's going to be on Facebook, but a lot of people are, and I would say it's like the de facto social media. When you talk about social media, it starts with Facebook, and I would argue that Twitter, I mean, for the most part, has been on the decline too. And I don't have any stats to produce that, but like
it's interesting. There's actually a lot of people in my world that Twitter has taken off again. So
Really?
So what? There's thousands, millions, billions of people on these platforms, and we only need to know less than 1% of them. So it's irrelevant on all of them. It's actually irrelevant.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably better for it to go more niche, right? Like, and I know that Twitter has like, I mean, there's been people that like since like day one have done, hashtag like chatting Wednesday or something, like, or business Wednesday, and it's just like people are just connecting through hashtags, almost like as if they're in a chat room. So that's what I don't get when people think like, oh, well, Facebook's going to die. I mean, look, Facebook wanted to, they could just buy up other companies, like, and they buy probably, I bet you they buy like 30 plus companies a year. You just don't hear about it.
Yeah. Well, and Facebook has more of our assets, right, than a typical platform. Like, some of us have been documenting our lives through Facebook since like 2008, 2009. So you've got pictures, you've got history. It's basically a personal diary. And I personally would hate to lose that record completely, where, Twitter, Instagram, you don't have that much of a documentation. on the platform. So I feel like it's easier to walk away from those platforms than it is a platform like Facebook, which is much stickier.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right. Well, that pretty much wraps up our show here. We didn't cross the 5,000 mark, unfortunately, for
Aw.
subscribers. It's still, I don't remember what was it at. Was
It was
at
4993.
Yeah,
3?
you're
So it's at
getting there.
4994. So yeah, it's getting there. It's gonna inch itself over the finish line for sure. Marcel, I don't know. I don't know how to read any of that, so I apologize. All I know is ... ice cream. I can read, that I get.
I can read emojis.
Okay, wow, y'all should just say blank, whatever, or
Yeah.
else I'm
Something.
at
beep, 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 beep.
well, we don't want you to leave, but if you must, we understand. I mean, we're leaving.
No,
We respect.
We can all leave
Right.
together.
Well, Marcel's saying for us not to leave. Let's go. You said it. I don't know.
Oh, I guess he wanted you to say, "Let's go."
Let's go.
oh.
That's how you pronounce. Oh, wow. That's what that says. That I find that hard to believe. I don't know.
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay. Well, we do unfortunately have to go. Sam has some special things going on today. And I actually have to go to a store that's like an hour away. So hooray for that.
Oh, wow. You're just going to be driving your whole life.
The kids are excited, though. They want to go on the minivan.
Good for them.
So yes, good for them. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode, it's been brought to you by our good friends over at yourpodcastconcierge.com. Go check out Leon. If you don't want to have to do any of your podcast editing and getting it published and doing all the hard, heavy lifting, other than just showing up to what you're best at, which is hosting a show, right? So if you want to do that, go over to yourpodcastconcierge.com, chat with Leon. He's great. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Appreciate you, Marcel, Locutus, who else? Jorge and Lorraine and FSY and Tim. Good to see you, Tim. I was texting Tim last night when I was driving by for the place that he lives.
You were texting everyone last night.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I'm driving by. It's actually funny. I mean, I know I have a lot of friends that live up and down the East Coast, but like when I was driving by, I'm like, man, I know somebody in this town and 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 this town. And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was getting kind of late to text people, but I didn't want to. I texted you anyway, Jen. Sorry.
I know. I was asleep. You should know that by now, but
I kind of figured it, but it's okay. But so I figure that you should join us next Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, right? Got it?
Got it.
Here on the Business Geeks podcast. For Sam and Jen, I'm Super Joe Pardo. Have a great week, and we'll see you next